Ready? Oh. Okay, not the beginning of tonight's daf is not so easy. Naftali's already falling asleep. Yeah. Sorry for calling you out over there. Yeah. Aaron Kaplan, by the way, I meant to tell you, we had a pizza eating contest yesterday. I only made it to 6 slices.
Tiago, what's going on with you?
Sroyal got 8. Sroyal got 8.
Wow. Okay. Tiago, you okay? I'm getting nervous now, Tiago.
Yeah, I could have gone to 8. I just didn't.
Yeah, you
I had to say,
you wanted him to win.
I had to do a Daf Yomi Chabura afterwards. You know, I didn't know what 2 more slices were going to do to me. So.
What's that? Aaron, I thought you're not supposed to cut the pizza.
Oh, the Aaron doesn't know that, Maisa, Tiago. We should tell him that.
Okay. I didn't know. No, I'm not.
Which store?
Tiago.
Yaakov's son-in-law. Yaakov's son-in-law.
By the way, this was brought up already in brachas.
What? My pizza eating contest?
Yes, I went to look for the picture. I couldn't find it. I'm gonna look for it.
You better find that picture. That's a good picture.
Anyways,
how many years ago is that? 18, 19 years ago?
It must be.
Wow.
No, I'll tell you once, because we were talking about Machlokes a couple. Then now it just brought up, just reminded me. So there was obviously some Machlokes with these pizza shops. So talking about, like, you know, who you pasken like, that's what we had a couple of days ago on the daf. So this guy tells me, yeah, there was a din Torah. I said, so who did the din Torah? And he tells me this Rav, great Rav, a Gevaldig Rav. I said, must be that you won the din Torah. He says, of course. I said, no wonder you're praising the Rav. He didn't even chop my joke that I chopped him on it. Like, okay, yeah, great Rav. Anyways. Yeah. Okay. So basically, we ended off yesterday. By trying to prove, and then we're going to continue that today, is whether if you're standing inside and you can't see the lechi, right? If you can't see the lechi or the kaira, well, it's not really going to be nageh to kaira, because that you'll see it's laying across the mavui, right? But if you have a lechi and it's not visible to the people inside, is that considered like it's a hecker or not? So we were trying to stay back and forth whether it's a hecker or whether it's not a hecker. So what we're trying to do is bring a proof from the small chutzner. And this case keeps coming up. It's going to come up again in a day or two, Bez Hashem. But you have the small chutzner into the big chutzner, right? We just have to do this a little bit because of the continuation, right? Like we said, this is the big chutzner, this is a small chutzner. That's what I'm trying to show with the block and the Lego, right? And the yellow, that's the end of the chutzner, and that yellow wall fell down. Right, so we said that you can carry in the big chutzner, you can't carry in the small chutzner. Right, so we're saying, well, why can't you carry in the small chutzner? Because there's no mechitza there. There's nothing there, but it is, because this acts as a lechi for people standing in here. So the Gemara was saying that it must be that it's not seeing the lechi. If not being able to see the lechi from inside is a problem. Right, that's what you're saying. And we said that it could be talking about where it's this way, so it's not lovered, or this way. Okay, so then we started two lines down on Yud Amud Aleph. So the Gemara is right. So we said it's going according to Rebbe, who holds that for a chotzer, you need to have 2 lechis. 2 lechayim is the real way to say it. For a chotzer, you need to have 2 lechayim. So then the Gemara says, second line down, last word on the line. Hi, mai. Right, what's the case? If you say that if you could see the lechi on the outside, but on the inside it's equal, meaning so you can't see it, so it's not a lechi for Rebbe, and Rebbe, who we had just said we're going according to. Right? He holds like Rabbi Yossi. I'm sorry, for Rebbe, Rabbi Yossi, and Rebbe holds like Rabbi Yossi, right? Who we said before on Amud Beis, Rabbi Yossi holds that the lechi has to be at least 3 tefachim wide, which is not the way we pasken, but he holds it has to be 3 tefachim wide. Who do Rav Zera, the Ravina Lessa, and he does not hold of Rav Zera and Ravina, right? That was the teretz where we said that the walls go into the large chutzner. Mishum hachi. Yeah, kitana be'eser, gedayla ba'achas. So because of that, that's why we said that the small one, this one we said yesterday, this chutzner is 10 amos, and this chutzner is 11 amos, right? So that's why, because you want to have each one to have a certain size. But if you say that did I just skip a line? I see, yeah. That's why you need it to be 11, because Rabbi holds like Rabbi Yossi, meaning this has to have 3 tvachim, this has to have 3 tvachim, right? So remember that we said 6 tvachim in an amah. So therefore, you do have good lechayim. But if you do say that it's good lechi, Isa, and he holds like Rav Zera and Ravina. The Rabbi loisavalak Rabbi Yossi, and Rabbi doesn't hold like Rabbi Yossi. Why do you need the bigger chutzner to be 11 amas? Either way, if you're just coming to allow the large chutzner, right, meaning the top brick here, then you don't need 11 amas. All you need is 10 amas and 2 tefachim, because 1 tefach is enough. And if you're coming to say to make the small chutzner aser, why don't you just say that it's much bigger, right? Because if the bottom one is going to be aser, who cares? If the small chutzner is going to be aser, then who cares? What it's coming to teach us is that if you can see a lechi from the outside and on the inside it's equal, meaning you can't see it, it's not considered a kosher lechi and you cannot carry there. Shema Mino. So the Gemara is saying that's the maskan of the Gemara, which the Gemara is going to change. Again, now it was a little bit complicated that last thing, because there's a lot of shitas. There was a lot of shitas flying around, but the main thing to take from this, because we're going to see the Gemara is going to ask in a few lines, is that the Gemara right now seems to be proving that if you can't see the lechi on the inside, then it's no good, right? Then you cannot. Let's say you have a mavui, and the lechi is not visible inside, then it's no good. That's what the Gemara seems to be saying now. And the Gemara is going to change from that. So, Shmamino, fine. Amar Rav Yosef, Lo Shmi Elei HaShmaitza. Rav Yosef said, I never heard this Shmaitza, B'Shem Rav Huna, I never heard this. Right? So, Amar Lei Abaya, now, the background to this is that, as we know, Rav Yosef lost most of his Torah, or a lot of his Torah. So, he forgot a lot of things. So, Abaya used to remind him of what he said and what he didn't say. So, Amar Rav Yosef, Lo Shmi Elei HaShmaitza, I never heard this Shmaitza. So, Amar Lei Abaya, At Amr Nehalan, you told us this Shmaitza, and on this you said the following. If you have a lechi that's extended from the wall of the mavui, yeah, so basically this would be the wall of the mavui, right? Looking at it from a side angle, and then you have a lechi that looks like this, right? So it's an extension. It's a little different than the wall, but it's extended. So if this yellow extension is less than dalar amas, then we consider it a lechi. Then you can carry in the mavui. Again, this is a side view. So you can carry in the mavui up until here, right? Which, if you remember, is a Machlokes, whether you're even allowed to carry alongside the lechi. Right, but the Gemara is going to discuss it in a minute. But that's the first thing you said. So again, if you have a lechi that extends outside of the main wall of the mavui, so you're saying less than 4 tefachim, then it's considered a lechi and you can use it. Dalet amas, but once this thing is bigger than dalet amas, then neither mishum mavui, then it's considered like its own individual mavui. And then you're not even allowed to carry anywhere in the mavui because you don't have a proper lechi. And this is what about.
Well, could you make a marking on the 4 amas one up after 4 tvachim? I remember you said last night you could paint.
Yeah. And 100% you could, but it's talking about what you didn't, right? Yeah, very good. You could do that, but this is assuming you didn't do anything, right? So this is what Rabbi Yosef taught Abaye. And then Abaye says, and you told us that we hear 3 different halachas from this member. Like we just said, it's teaching us that in between the lechis, which we said means 1 lechi, you're only allowed to carry up until the lechi, not past it, right? And you're teaching us that a mavui is 4, right? It's 4, what do you call it? 4 amas, not 4 tefachim. And we also teaching us that because this lechi was not visible from the inside, because it just looks like an extension of the fence, so therefore, nida mishum lechi, it's considered. I'm sorry, you could. No, nida b'chutz v'sham nida mishum lechi, right? If you can't, the people inside can't see it, then it's still considered a lechi, because you said if you have it less than 4 tefachim, that would allow you to carry in the mavui. And we pasken the halacha is that if you see it on the outside and it's equal on the inside, then it is considered a lechi. So now, what second? 7 lines ago in the Gemara just said Shema Mina that it is not a lechi, and now the Gemara is saying Shema Mina that it is a lechi. So which way are we going with this? So the Gemara says to Yufta v'hilchaso, you're asking a kasha on it, and then meaning 7 lines ago, the 3 lines up from the wide lines, you asked the Tiyufta v'hilchas, and then you pasken like that. So the Gemara says in Mishum Datani Reb Chia Kabasei, yes, because Reb Chia has a brisa that says that way. So since Reb Chia has a brisa that says that it's considered a lechi, therefore we're going to pasken like that, even though we have a kasha on it, but we still are allowed to go with that. Yeah, Peretz, you have that picture that I sent you? Peretz? Yeah. There it goes. Now, okay, so now this is a picture of the Eruv here in the bungalow colony. Just now, there's a big shiloh. This is talking about we've been talking about for a mavui. That's not negeya nowadays. But we do have this with when you're building an Eruv or checking an Eruv, and it comes up in Farakoi also in Lawrence, 5 towns Eruv, where does the lechi and the wire have to be inside the Eruv or not? Now, the reason why I have a hard time with this is because after my father was nifter, so I took over doing the Eruv in the country, and I did the Eruv a little bit in the I'm saying do the Eruv in the city too. I wasn't paskening it, but Paris, go back to the other picture, please. So the question is, if you have a lechi and a wire, but the lechi is outside of the part that's covering the Eruv, right? Is that good? Meaning, if you're standing inside the Eruv and you can't see the tzuras of Pesach, meaning the lechi with the wire, you could see the wire, but you can't see the lechi. Is that a kosher thing or not? Meaning, our Gemara comes out here that it is considered a lechi, right? It's considered good. But the question is, does it apply to the tzuras of Pesach also? So if you zoom in on this, yeah, so now, Peretz, put the wire at the top of that lechi, please. Go up a little. Go up. See, that's a lechi right there. There is no longer a wire there. Now, this, right there was the old lechi.
There's two lechis going each way, right?
Right, so that's exactly what I'm explaining. So the Eruv, the part that we were encircling was to the left, not to the right of the picture. Now we're right. Where the parrots just moved the hand, that's the part we were encircling. Now this lechi was knocked into the house. If you're standing where that hand is, that parrots has, there's no way to see the lechi. The only people that could see the lechi is if you're standing outside the Eruv. I hope I'm being clear with that. Yeah? Am I being clear with that? If you're standing outside, parrots, switch to the other picture for a minute, please. Right. So if you're standing to the right, you see the old wires there?
Whoops. This one?
Right. So now this is standing inside the Eruv. There's a new lechi there, but there was an old lechi that was around the bend. It just was easier to do it that way. Now, my father's, from what I understand, my father's made it that way. I didn't know anything about this hak in the pasken about whether you can see the lechi or not. And somebody asked me about it, and I said, I have no idea. I'm just doing what my father did, which is always the dangerous thing when you just learn from Ma'aser Rav and you don't actually learn the sugis yourself, so you can get yourself into trouble. I had no idea what to tell the guy. I said, I know it's a Machlokes, but I'm assuming that my father had no problem with it. So of course, because of the kanois, I got nervous, so I put a new lechi here so you could see it. Then Lamaisa, if you look in the background, there's a tree there. That's where the new Eruv goes. That's where the Eruv goes. We totally eliminated that because people wanted to carry around that house. But the point is this would be a classic. This would be right. That's there because they wanted to be able to carry here. But this right here, go back to the other picture, Parrots, please, for a second.
Tiago, but I'm not understanding because you could see the lechi from the side of the building.
No, that's the new lechi.
Oh, that's a new lechi.
Look at this. Look at this. If I'm standing to the left now, see there's 2 lechis there. See there's 2 lechis?
Right.
There's the old one. Right? That was the one that was there from my father's days. If
Which
you're
one, the lighter
standing
or the
inside
The lighter,
the
the
bigger
lighter
one, the
color
2
wood
by
is
4.
the new one?
The lighter, yeah, the lighter one is a 2x4, right? I should have taken it from the other angle. But that 2x4, if you're standing inside to the left of this building, you have no idea that there's a lechi there. You have no idea. You see a wire going, but you have no idea that there's a lechi.
The lighter one is the older one.
The lighter one is the older one. Then I
Right.
put another one there because this guy was making a kanois. And since I'm an Amoritz, I didn't know what to do with it. So in case he was right, I put a lechi there, which I tell you, no ego involved. At least I hope
You
not.
look down here, you see the lechi because it goes down past the foundation, the bottom of the picture.
Okay, so now again, so I don't know what his svara was. It could be he felt that the wire was going, whatever it is. But this happens a lot in Eruvin. And it's a chumrah. I mean, whatever. It's a machlokes, whether it's an issue or not.
There's a second string or just a lechi?
Where? No, there was another string that went over the top, but now we eliminated it. But at that point, if you're standing right here and looking at this eruv, if you're using that lighter lechi, you have no idea standing in the eruv that there's a lechi there. So
this was used as a lechi or a tzursa pesach?
It was used as a tzursa pesach. There was a wire.
You have to see a tzursa pesach.
That's exactly part of the. You could see, but the other side it wasn't. No, but that building became the eruv. There was no wires there. That building was the eruv, and then it continued from there. So if you're standing right here from this picture, you can. There was no way to see the lechi. Whatever it is, that's exactly our sugya. That was the most practical example of our sugya here. Our sugya is talking about a mavui with just a lechi alone. This is tzursa pesach, but that's a tumah in the pasken. That anyways, I saw today that the article does bring down this machlokes in the footnote. The article brings down this machlokes. But anyways, okay. So I wish I knew exactly what my father Zichron Revacha was thinking about with this, but I have no idea. Yeah. Okay. So now we go back. So then we said in the Mishnah that if it's wider than 10. The mavui opening is wider than 10, and you have to make it smaller. If it's wider than 10, you have to make it smaller. You don't have to. Right? So Rabbi Yehuda disagrees. Until how much? Savar, yeah, meaning how far does Rabbi Yehuda allow it to go? Does that mean he allows the entrance to a mavui to be 1,000 amas? He's saying it's bigger than 10 amas is allowed, but how much bigger? So Savar Rav Achi kamed Rav Yosef Lameimar ad shloish esrei amah ushlish, until 13 amas and a third, 13 and a third amas. Okay, the kal v'chomer pasei b'rois, and it's a kal v'chomer from pasei b'rois. Okay, so now we're gonna have to do a little bit of show and tell about exactly what pasei b'rois is. If you look here, I'm gonna stand up and look at it. This is, can you see? Okay, now the middle, this seltzer bottle would be the well, right? That's a bira, is a well. So now when the oily regalim came up to Yerushalayim, they had to feed their animals. So they needed a way for the animals to get into the well to drink. So they made a kula, which was that if you make 2 lechis on all 4 corners, right? 2 there, 2 here, 2 there, even though the space is very large, you're allowed to, then that's a kosher eruv. It was a special dispensation. No, there's no wires here. Just.
This is another Gemara also, right?
This is Gemara later on, but it's not. We're not holding this. So just then.
No, but this is other Gemaras and other Masechtas.
Yeah. They quote this Gemara, but this is Gemara Viter in Eruvin, right? So basically, it's a major leniency for the oile rego, right, to allow this. Now, how big a space was allowed in between these two? So that's a question.
Is that well already inside another eruv to begin with?
No. It's a good question. No, that's Stama well. That's Stama middle of nowhere. So then you build up these lechis, one in each direction on all 4 corners, and that lets you have this space coming in. Now, how big could that space be? Yeah, go ahead.
I don't understand. What do you mean by special dispensations? These are deraisa. These are rishusim.
What do you mean? First of all,
they're
building.
Okay, but they're not. They're allowed. Animals are allowed to go out of rishusim. I'm saying animals allowed to go from Rishus Rabim to Rishus Yachid, or take stuff from Rishus Rabim to Rishus Yachid. Why did they create a Rishus?
Yes.
I'm saying, why did they create these rishus for this well to begin with for their animals? What would the animal be doing?
The animal is doing an isser. When you stick it into the well is the rishus hayachid, right?
So then they had to create a rishus hayachid around that. So what do you mean by special
dispensation? They needed to create this thing. Yes. What?
So if then they have to create a real rishus hayachid midiraisa. What does that mean? There's special dispensation.
They allowed it.
I understand that.
For the early regalim. They didn't do.
He's asking how do they have the right? He's asking how they have the right.
It's either it works or it doesn't work.
No, what do you mean? It works. Meaning it works. Midaraisa it works. But for
so why? What do you mean by what?
Because the space. The space is because the space is much larger than what the chachamim know. Meaning midaraisa it works, right? But the chachamim don't normally allow such a large space. No, it's a good question, right? The chacham don't normally allow such a large. Meaning we just said by mavui, right? We just said by mavui, you're allowed up to 10 amos. You're allowed up to 10 amos. So here they allowed even bigger than 10 amos, right? Because of the alllow regalim. But yeah, but it's all ultimately it's all.
So 1 second, a mavui, if you do it more than 10 amos, midiraisa, you weren't over. You're not chayav b'chatas.
Correct. No, you're not right. You are not chayav b'chatas. No, mavui is the rabbanon. Yeah, it's the rabbanon, 100%. Yeah. Yes. Anyway, no, it's a good point. That's a good point that we have to point out that it works with the rabbanon, but in other areas we don't. The rabbanon don't allow this. So anyway, so the Gemara is going to say there that the maximum amount of space in between these corner lechis that are going in both directions is 13 1/3 amos. So now the Gemara is going to learn out from that to mavui. I love these type of Gemaras because it just shows you that the thinking, because there's going to be obviously two different ways of thinking, and they're going to be polar opposites of each other. Right? Each side has its own good point, but mamish total opposites of each other. So let's see. He's saying you can. So again, Rabbi Yosef is saying that according to Rabbi Yehuda, the opening of a mavui can be bigger than 10, but not more than 13 1/3. That's what we're trying to figure out. How do you know? This is from Pasei Birois. That's the name of this thing that we're just talking about. Uma Pasei Birois how do you pronounce that? Shehitarta, right? Shehitarta behen paratz meruba alllow. That Pasei Birois we allow, even though there's much more space, right? Paratz is space, a break. Is much more space than actual pieces of wood, right? Because the space is way larger than the lechis that you have on this thing. You didn't allow more than 13 amos. Ushlish and a third. A mavui, where if there was more space in the walls of the mavui, you would never allow it, right? Again, mavui, and a mavui that you would not allow of open space more than an oimid. Of course, you will not allow more than 13 1/3 amos. Again, he's saying Pasei Birois has a special dispensation for people going up to Yerushalayim, that even though the space is way, way bigger than the actual lechis, we still allow it. That's right, but we only allow it to 13 1/3 amos. So a mavui, which we would never allow more space, and which we're going to see on Amud Beis, a mavui would never allow more space than mechitzas, then for sure it should only go to 13 1/3 amos. So the Gemara says, nope, the opposite. No, it itself will tell you something. Pasei Birois, right? So these wood things, where you're allowed a bigger space than the Amud, and you did not allow a space bigger than 13 1/3 amos. So a mavui where you did not allow more space than that you should allow more than 13. Meaning the way the Gemara is saying now is total opposite. It's saying by the Pasei Birois, you're allowing a lot of big space, so we're going to allow up to 13 1/3. But a mavui where you don't allow big spaces, fine. So then, but the opening should at least be allowed to go bigger than 13 1/3.
What kind of logic is that?
Well, it's not a kavach. I don't know if this is a kavach.
It's a bad logic. The svar daya would apply here for sure. Whether it's a real kavach or not, you just say daya. It's not good logic. Mechatezi, you have no makam to say anything.
No, so I don't think that this hiya nesenes is a kavach. I didn't learn it as a kavach. chaimer.
But we don't know. We don't have makar.
That's true. That's true. But it's a thought process that it's trying to figure out. That's why it goes the other way. Inami, or you could say Akiva. This is maybe what you're saying. Inami liidach gisa, or say the other way. Pasib birois ta'kilas bu chad kula. The pasib birois that you already put one leniency in there, right? Which is a big leniency. Akabo kula achridin. Let me put another kula in there. Mavui klal klaloi, but mavui that I was not lenient to allow a bigger space than the mechitzas, then I wouldn't allow it, and I shouldn't allow anything at all, meaning anything more than 10. Either way, so the Gemara, the Gemara has kavachimer or svaras either way, whether to allow bigger than 10 or not. But the point is that one side of Gemara is bigger than 13 and a third.
To teach you what the halach is. The question is, can we learn out from Hasi Rice what the din would be by mavui? That's all.
Yeah.
The guy is not Mikhail.
Okay, Yisrael doesn't like.
I disagree.
Like
What are you learning out from there? If it's completely different, you can't learn anything out from there. We're learning that the Rabbanan made heterim. Yeah, but we just said before it's a special dispensation. So I could just say it's special dispensation. There's no levels to it at that point. Once we destroy the idea of levels, there's nothing. If I care, you could just turn it on its head and say that had special dispensation, and this has nothing. There's no svara here to say that the Rabbanan should ever make a special dispensation, and definitely not more than that.
We're not going to say more than that. We're not going to say that. We're not learning out from positive advice that you could have bigger. We're just not learning out from.
Then why are we bringing it in? There's no point in bringing it in.
No, so I think what Yisrael is saying. Right. No, I think what he's saying is that the bottom line is this kavachimer is inconclusive. That's what he's saying. We're not looking to actually prove anything more than that. We're just trying to slug up the kavachimer.
I understand, but there is no logic to bringing in the case of Birais at all.
Yeah. What is Rabbi Yehuda's maximum shear? Right?
Right.
If you want to say Yud Gemush Amos Shlish from Pasi Birais.
Right.
Right? The Kal V'Chomer is just saying, no, you can't say that that's the maximum shear. Is that what you meant?
Okay, I don't what I meant. That's what I thought you meant. Who's on first? But anyways. It's the bottom line is from this kavachimer, it's inconclusive. So now the Gemara is going to try and discuss different ways to make the entrance to the mavui smaller. Tani Levi said mavui shurachav eser amas. So now you have a mavui that's 20 amas wide. That's double the length, the kosher length. Again, not going according to the view, going according to our Mishnah. If the maximum length is 10 amas and this opening is 20 amas, right? So what do? Noyetz kana b'emtze isoi v'daya, right? There you go, Akiva. They die. At least you macham into that, yeah. Right. So it says, you stick it inside the middle. You stick a beam inside the middle, and that's enough, right? Because now what happens is that beam in the middle makes it that you have 10 amas to one side, 10 amas to the other side, and Givaldik, you don't have an opening of 20 amas. You have two openings of 10, or actually two openings of 9 and change, right? Who Tani love? Who Amar law? The ain't halacha kaisa Mishnah. He taught it, and he said, but the halacha is not like that Mishnah. Ikadamri Amar Shmuel Mishmei the Levi ain't halacha kaisa Mishnah. He didn't say that it was the halacha wasn't like that Mishnah, but it was Shmuel in the name of Levi that it wasn't that. It's the halacha is not like that Mishnah. Eli heichi Ovid. So how can you take an opening that's 20 amas wide and make it smaller? So Amar Shmuel Mishmei the Levi. So Shmuel said in the name of Levi. Now we're on Tumah Beis. I said pass now. This is not a hard Gemara, but it just gets a little bit, it gets a little technical, which I guess makes it hard. You take a board that's 10 tfachim high, the meshech arba amos, that's 4 amos long, and you put it to the length of the mavui. Artschool has a chart of this, I think. Right? Yeah, I think Artschool has a chart. They'll post it. Yeah, that's the old one, right? So again, you take a board and it goes, no, they'll usually they post it on there, but so again, you take a board that's 10 tfachim high, 4 amas long, and you stick it in the middle of the mavui opening, right? Inami, that's one way to do it. Inami, because Rav Yehuda, Damar Rav Yehuda, mavui shurachav chamesh esrei amah. If you have a mavui that's 15 amas wide, which means that it's 5 amas too wide. Marchik shtei amas, you distance the board 2 amas away from the wall. Va'isa pas shalish amas, and you make a pass that's 3 amas long. right? So therefore, you just knocked down. Oh, thank you for posting it. Yeah. So then what you did, you just knocked it down by 5 amas. Again, you have an opening of mavui that's 15 amas wide, which means it's 5 amas too much. So what you do is you take a board that's 3 amas wide and you set it up 2 amas away from the wall, right? So now that's fine because the 2 amas opening is fine because you have a 3 amas board next to it. So therefore,
is that an exact measurement? You need the 3. You're saying you need the 3 because only 2 is good enough.
What do you mean? What are you asking?
Why do you need the 3? Why can you do? I don't get it. What 2 amas is good enough? I mean, that's the maximum that's good. No.
It could be more. That's exactly Yossi. The Gemara is going to ask all sorts of kashas.
Oh, okay.
Like why it is different? No, you're being mechaven to the Gemara. The Gemara is going to go through all the different variables now of how to set it up. But the Gemara is thinking right now. You take it 2 amas away from the wall, that gets you down to 13, and then you put a board that's 3 amas wide, that gets you down to 10. Perfect. There you go. So now basically what you're going to have is you're going to have a 15 amas wide opening with a 15 amas wide open to the mavui, 10 amas of space, 3 amas of a board, 2 amas of space, and hallelujah, you're good to go, right? So now the Gemara says, why should you do it this way, right? Yaseh pas amah. So take a board 1.5 amas. Right, again, we're trying to get down from 15 to 10. That's what you have to keep in mind here. So take a pass that's an amah merza, 1.5. The yarchik shtei amas, distance it 2 amas away from the wall, so that gets you down to 11.5, right? 11.5. The yaseh pas amah merza, and then make another board of 1.5, and then that gets you down to 10. So why aren't you saying this? Or that's the reason why the Gemara doesn't suggest doing that. Again, you put a board 1.5 next to the wall. What would that help you? Then you wait 2. Then you have a space of 2 amas, and then you have another one of an amah and a half. So why didn't the Gemara suggest that? So now this is a major rule. One of the major rules in Eruvin is that aymin meruba ala paretz mishtei ruchos lo havi aymin. If you have an Amud, meaning Amud means the board, right? The board, the lechi, the wood, however you want to call it. That's more than the open from shtei ruchas, from 2 different ruchas means directions, right? Lo havi Amud, then that's not Amud. Yeah, meaning you have to, because basically what you're having here is that you're having a space of 2, and then there's a space of 10. That's too much. That's a part from 2 different. That's too much space around it. Well, let's see. The Gemara says no. Really, I would tell you that is good enough. Right. So this is also an important rule. The air from this side, gisa means this aside. So avira means air. Avira the high gisa, the air from this side. Avira the high gisa, and the air from this side is going to come with mavatala, and that's going to be mavatal the wood. Yeah. Now, basically, what we're saying like this is, if you have a board right here, so we're saying that this board is 1.5. Now, on one side of this board is 2 amas, correct? Let's call this. Let's call this 2 amas, right? So you have this board that's 1.5 amas wide. Then you have space of 2 amas, and then what's on the other side of this board? Space of 10 amas, right? So basically what it is since the air on either side of this board is wider than this board, because again, this board was 1.5. The space next to it is 2. And then the space on the other side of it is 10. That means the space on either side of this board is more than the board. That's called Asiya Avira Dahaigi. So the air from this side and the air from this side is going to come and as mavatal this mechitza. So therefore it doesn't work. So then the Gemara says, okay, the
what about the first case? What about the first case of Isa Pas Kavaya Sarvim Sheikh Arba Amas? Over there, both sides are more than the actual amount.
No, but see, right? No, but there, correct. But there, that's an excellent question. There, it's not working. There, you're splitting. That's why it's 4 amas long. You're splitting the mavui. There, you're making it into 2 separate mavuis. That's why it needs to be 4 amas, right? Meaning there, you're not putting it not perpendicular. You're not putting it perpendicular, right? You're putting it parallel, right? So since it's parallel, that's why it needs to be. Thank you. I should have pointed this out. There, you're not using it as a mechitza to the mavui. There, you're splitting the mavui into two separate mavuis, right? That's why we don't say that rule. Right, but excellent. Yeah, you chop that. That's pretty good. Okay.
In all the other cases, where's your 3 walls? You only have 2 walls if you're not going all the way to the end.
Correct. So that's a mavui within a mavui. So then you're gonna use the mavui, the back walls of the mavui. It's gonna connect to that.
But the side wall's not there.
No, but that's
so you
also
only have
it's
a
a good
back
question.
wall.
You have the back wall of a different mavui, but that's one mavui in front of another mavui. The way I think the pshat is that what's the whole concern with a mavui? You're going to carry from that mavui into Rosh Hashanah, but here that mavui is behind. Now what essentially is you turned one big mavui into 3 mavuis. You have the back mavui, then you have 2 4 Amos mavuis. So if you're in the back mavui, there's no concern that you're going to carry from that mavui into Rosh Hashanah because you got to go through 2 mavuis that are already taken care of. Yeah, am I making any sense?
I was just wondering, in the case other than the 4 Amos one, you only have, let's say, if you put one like lechi in the middle, or you put the one that's 3 Amos wide. In those cases, since you're now not having, it's not that 3rd wall, you only have a back wall and you have 1 side wall. So where's your 3 walls of this mavui?
No. Are you talking about in the case we're splitting up all these pieces of wood? Those cases?
Yeah, either where it's not flush against one of the walls. So where you have that 3 Amos one, or the one that was just like.
Oh, so that's
one.
Right. So that's just the front of the mavui, but the sides you still have 3 walls. This is the 4th wall that you're trying to fix. The other 3 walls are perfectly fine. No,
but it's not connected to the 3rd wall. You have a 2 Amos space next to that.
But that we're using that we have. You have Ayman Meruba ala Paretz. There's more wood there than there is space, right?
That will make a wall.
Yes, that's exactly what we're saying. That's exactly what we're saying. But now the Gemara's teretz is Asi Avira the High Gisa Mavatala, meaning sometimes when you try and set this up, it's not going to work. It's not going to work for technical reasons because the middle board has to have more surface area than the spaces around it, which you won't have in that case.
Got it.
They bring that.
Yeah.
They bring down from Rizva that's mechalik between them. It's a little bit lumdish how he explains why by the case before the avir is not mevatalit. By the case of they bring down from Rizva. He says that only when the spaces in between are trying to fill a gap do we say that the avir ends mevatalit. But in the case before, once you created that partition, the spaces in between are just parts of 2 different mavuis. You're not. The avir over here of the 2 amahs, Betzim, you're trying to use that as part of the wall that fills in, as part of the gap being filled in. It's not just a side to the 2 different mavuis.
Okay. That's
2 in the middle and 1 on the one side.
That's okay. Okay, very good, Akiva. So we'll get to that. I think the Gemara is going to fine. Okay, let's see weiter. So then the Gemara says, "V'yasa pas amah." Why don't you take a board of an amah, the yarchik amah, and distance it 1 amah away? So again, we have an opening of 15. You want to take a wood board. You want to put it an amah away from the wall. So that gets us 2 amahs down. We need to get 3 more. V'yasa pas amah, and then take another board. That's an amah, the yarchik amah, and distance it another amah. And so now we're down to 11. V'yasa pas amah, and then make another pas amah. Shma minah. Amud kiparetz aser. So the reason, Gemara is saying you didn't do that. Meaning basically do it alternated. Do an amah of space, then an amah wood board, then an amah of space, an amah wood board, an amah of space, an amah wood board. That's 5. That gets you down to 10, and then everything is great. So must be why didn't the Gemara suggest that? Shema, Amud kiparetz aser. We hear from this that Amud kiparetz, if you have the exact same amount of boards as you have space, it's no good, which the Gemara is going to discuss later on. So the Gemara says, no, really, I will tell you that if there's the same amount of space as there are boards, it's going to be mutter. You have the same issue. because you're going to have the air from either side, and it's going to be mevatel, because the air is the same side as the boards. So anywhere it says v'yachik amah, so why don't we distance it an amah away? That gets us down to 14. V'yasa pas amah u'mechza, do an amah and mechza, that gets you down to 12 and a half. V'yachik amah, and then distance it an amah, v'yasa pas amah u'mechza, and then make a board 1.5. Again, right? Because now we're looking for a way to get it that the boards are bigger than the space. So we found a great way to do it, right? Distance it an amah away, and then make a board 1.5, and then another amah, and then a board 1.5, right? So now the boards are bigger than the space. So we can't say this rule of the avir, the air is coming in as mimavatal. So our answer is right, a great teretz. And you're right. We're not going to be matriach you so much. We're not going to make you mashuga to make this and this and this. So we gave an easier suggestion of just making a board 3 amas wide and distancing it 2 amas from the wall. Okay. So it says, but the bottom line is you're now going to have 2 spaces in the front entrance to the mavui. You're going to have your 10 amas space, and then you're going to have a 2 amas space. So we know, right, which was one of these unclear things exactly when we say this rule. But the bottom line is if there's an opening that you're really looking at as a mechitza, right? Well, how are we looking at this space? Again, you have the wall of the mavui, you have a space of 2 amas, and then a board of 3 amas. So now we're literally looking at that it's all enclosed. But what happens if people go back and forth through that 2 amas opening? That's going to eliminate that as an opening. So Gemara says, why aren't we choshed that people are going to go, instead of going through the 10 amas opening, they're going to go through the 2 amas opening, right? So Amar Ravada Bar Masna Chazaka, no, a person's always going to want to go through the bigger doors than to go through the smaller doors. So we're not worried about that. So then the Gemara asks, why is that different than Rav Ami and Rav Asi, which we had a few blot ago, which we said that if the wall of the mavui, on the side wall of the mavui breaks close to the opening, so then that's going to be a problem because people are going to walk through the side opening instead of the front. So Gemara answers, Hasan, might be lucha there. It's a shortcut. Right there, if you have a small opening in the side, you're going to take it because you have to walk less. Here, it's the front entrance of the mavui. You're not going to walk any less by going through the small opening. Right? You're going to go through the large opening. It's not going to cost you any more time. Right? Like you ever see the people that live in a corner, a certain town that I once hung out in, the corner, everybody's too busy to actually walk on the sidewalk. So the guy never had a front yard without a fence. And there was a path cutting across his corner, right? It saved everybody probably 3 seconds to 5 seconds, but everybody's so busy, they cut right across, right? So that's what the Gemara is saying here. When it's opening on the side of the mavui, so it's shorter for people, then they'll use that opening. Here, when there's 2 openings in the front of the mavui, one is 10 amas and one is 2 amas, everybody's going to go through the larger opening. It's just a lot more convenient. Therefore, we're not worried if people are going to go through that opening. Yeah, fine. It's not awesome. Yeah, okay. We're going to try and get to the 2 dots a little late, but let's go. Yeah, it's not. If we understood the previous one, then this one is also understandable. It's not awesome. Or ha'asla. Yes, if you have the leather of an asla, literally it's a toilet. Now, really, sometimes that's spelled with an aleph. Here it's spelled with an ayin, right? But an asla is a toilet. So an ora asla v'cholol shalei mitzdarfin b'tefach, and it's cholol, and the opening, the skin of the asla and the opening will be mitzdarf to make a tefach, right? Meaning we know by tumas mace, right? If you have a mace and a mace is under the same roof as something else, it's going to make it tummy. But that roof has to have at least a tefach. So if you have a toilet, it's really like a hole in the ground. But you make like this portable toilet seat, and you put leather that you could sit down on, right, and then hold you up, right? So therefore, or there's a chart for that. They have a chart for that. Okay, very good. So you'll combine the space and the actual leather to make an oil, right? So my ora. So what does it mean? The skin of the asa or the leather of the asa? It's the skin of the covering of a beis hakisei, not skin, the leather. The kama, how much does it have to be? It's ba'ayim mikan. It has to be 2 fingers from one side. That's ba'ayim mikan, and 2 fingers from another side. That's ba'ayim revach be'emtza, and a space of 2 in the middle. Right. So we're saying 6 fingers makes a tefach. Right. So again, 2 fingers of leather on one side, 2 fingers of leather on the other side, and I just lost it. I'm sorry. Did I lost the place?
How about cushion?
Right. So I'm sorry. 2 fingers from one side, 2 fingers on the other side, and 2 fingers in the middle. So Kiyasa Rav and Omar Etzbo Mechza Mikan. It's 1.5 fingers here. Etzbo Mechza Mikan, 1.5 fingers here. Etzba Revach Be'emsa, and then 1 etzba in the middle. So now, what are you going to think from that? That means clearly that he seems to be holding that the parts that are the Amud, right? Again, the skin here is the equivalent of the wood boards of the Eruv. So the second Mandamar, Ravin, is saying that the skin, the leather, has to be bigger than the space, right? Because he's the first sheet is 2 and 2 and 2, and the second sheet is 1.5, 1 and 1.5, right? So Amarle Abayler of Dimi, me plug Yisu, do you disagree? Amarle Loi. No, there's no disagreement. They're talking about 2 different size fingers. The first mandamar with the 2 fingers is obviously talking about smaller fingers, and the second mandamar says 1.5 fingers is talking about wider fingers. But like plug in, and there's no machlokes. Amarle lie, no, it's true. Plug Yisu, they are having a machlokes. So, but I'm in the parts mishtei ruchas plug Yisu, and it's talking about, like we said before, where the Amud is more than the Amud is the wood boards, and in here it's talking about the leather, is more than the space. Mishtei ruchas plug Yisu, whether that works from 2 different sides. According to you, it's going to be Amud from 2 ruchas. That's why he's saying 2, 2, and 2. The Rabbin miruach achas havi Amud, mishtei ruchas loy havi Amud. From one direction it is Amud, from 2 directions it's not Amud. So because if you said that there's no machlokes there, the Rabbin hachi by lelamer, because then Rabbin should have said something else. He should have said etzba ushlish mikan, 1 1/3 finger from this side, ve'etzba ushlish mikan, and 1 1/3 finger from the other side, ve'etzba ushlish revach be'emsa, and 1 1/3 in the middle, right? And everything is equal. So that he didn't say that, it must be because he holds that if it's going to be the same size, then it's not going to work. So then so what would be the machlokes? According to me, this is what he should have said. It should have said 1 finger and 2/3 from one side. And a finger and 2/3 from this side. And 2 fingers plus 2/3 of space in the middle. Right? That's what he should have said, right? Because again, that's about 2/3 from here, that's about 2/3 from here, and that's about 2/3 in the middle, right? Then everything is equal, and that's going to get you up to 6. No, so it must be that the machlokes is not about whether the avir on either side can be bigger or not, but the machlokes is whether it's the exact same amount, meaning those cases are all where they're the exact same thing, and he doesn't want to use that case, so therefore clearly he holds that it doesn't work because then the space is the exact same amount as the Amud. Okay, it was a hard daf. Let's keep the faith, and I hope we understood a little bit tonight. All right, have a good one.
There's 2 spaces. There's only 1 space on one side.
What?
By the toilet seat, right?
No, but it's not. There's 2 different units. There's one with the space on either side, and then there's where the space has to be equal or not.
Basically, it's cushion right? Toilet seats.
Well, I don't know. It's cushioned. No, what do you mean? You go to the bathroom through.
Like a net.
And why is it a net?
You
have a space in between.
It's not a net. You have a few strings.
Yeah. It's a 2-inch hole in the middle.
Right. That's essentially right. That's what comes. Yes, that's what comes out. Yes, it's like those small round toilet seats. Instead of the oval ones, right, parents?
I mean.
Tiago, let me tell you, man, my bathroom I have downstairs is tiny, but I said, no way, we're not getting an oval toilet. Gotta be elongated.
Yes. There you go. Yes.
Bigger toilets.
Yeah, very good, Benjamin. Okay. Anyway, yeah, that's. I don't know what kind.
Tiago, tell Mike I sent you a picture of a leather toilet for Mike.
Oh, okay.
What? It was people is fancy. Historically, it was fancy to have this. Why did we get into this discussion about the toilet seats?
Why did we? Because the Gemara here is talking about this.
Why?
I mean, why did we? I mean, why did the Gemara get involved?
Yeah,
I thought you asked me why we're talking about toilets.
No. We know why you're talking about.
We
But I
never
want to know
need an excuse to talk about toilets. Not in my world.
what I'm saying is, why did the Gemara segue into
I mean,
this?
why did the Gemara even get involved in this?
Yeah.
I think just to bring additional opinions about whether what we say about what do you call it? Amud mishtei ruchas, ruach achas, or mishtei, that whole Machlokes. We wanted to bring another set of opinions. I think, right? I think that's why. Meaning, it's bringing just that there's more Amirayim that have this Machlokes in a different scenario.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. It's an interesting segue.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah.
Okay.
Fine. All right.
Where's the mace?
In that toilet, I guess. No?
Hey, that's what you call dying on the throne.
No, they have to be inside the parrots. The dying
Get in.
Inside the throne. What?
How did the mace get in?
One of those bathrooms, like by a manga. Right?
It's a theoretical discussion, I assume.
Why is it theoretical? I'm saying, we
don't have a mace in the toilet.
Outhouse bathrooms, right?
Right.
They're full of them over here. So if you have a proper toilet seat with all these strings coming across, if there's a dead guy in this, and then it's the time of oil. It's not. If you don't
it's not talking about where a mace is under there. It's talking about there's a kazayas of a mace in there. Right?
Really falling.
There's a kazayas of a mace in there.
Yeah. This is just not a good story.
I guess, yeah.
You think nobody ever fell into one of those outhouse bathrooms? Like by manga?
Yeah.
When does a nafel become a?
Of course, people fell in.
All right.
When do you think so?
When does a nafel?
Did he really just say you think no one dumped something there?
Is that what you said?
What?
I don't know. Is that what he said? When does a nafel become into a, what do you call it?
When you have tumah
I think that's what he said.
And what stage of pregnancy would a fetus be considered a source of tumah? When it could have been alive?
Yeah, I think that would say probably. I mean, it also has to do with kfura. Right, when it needs kfura. I think it's totally zebizeh. That is different machlokes, 4 or 5 months in that area. 4 or 5.
I'm just trying to think of a scenario. I'm just thinking of a scenario whereby.
That's actually a good point, doctor. No, that's a good point. Sometimes if a woman has a miscarriage into the toilet. Yeah, no, that's taka. Right, that's very good. Yeah. Yeah.
Lo aleinu.
Yeah, lo aleinu. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, fine. I'm going to sign off here. Okay.
Okay.
Have yourselves a good night, everybody. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you, Rabbi.